Chapter 8. The winter season unexpectedly arrives in Maycomb, catching the town off guard. The winter is unusually cold, and the people of Maycomb are puzzled by this sudden shift in weather, which some believe is linked to a disturbance in the natural order, such as the children misbehaving. Mr. Avery, a neighbor, suggests that the season change is due to children disobeying their parents, smoking, and fighting each other. This idea, though whimsical, leads Scout and Jem to feel guilty for causing the strange weather, and they humorously believe their actions might have influenced the seasons. Amid the cold winter, old Mrs. Radley, Boo's reclusive mother, dies, though her death hardly causes a stir in the neighborhood since she had rarely been seen. Scout and Jem, driven by their curiosity about Boo, wonder if Boo had something to do with her death, but Atticus, their father, dismisses their suspicions and explains that she passed away due to natural causes. The children's curiosity about Boo is further complicated by their father's unwillingness to discuss the Radleys. Jem, sensing that Atticus might be displeased with their interest in Boo, advises Scout not to ask him more questions about the Radley family. However, their fascination with Boo continues to grow, and they wonder what Boo is like and whether he is truly as scary as they imagined. As the weather grows colder, a surprising event occurs. It begins to snow in Maycomb. Neither Scout nor Jem has ever seen snow before, and they react with excitement and disbelief. The rare snowfall leads to a temporary school closure, announced by the local telephone operator, Eula May. The children, eager to make the most of the snow, rush outside. But their excitement is tempered by the fact that the snow is too wet to make a proper snowman. Jem, determined to create a snowman despite the poor conditions, begins to collect snow from Miss Maudie's yard and combines it with dirt to build a snowman. As they work on their creation, Scout comments that the snowman looks like a nigger snowman due to its muddy appearance, but Jem quickly works to improve it. The snowman begins to resemble Mr. Avery, the neighbor who had warned the children about their bad behavior affecting the weather. With the addition of more snow and some items like a stovewood stick and a sun hat from Miss Maudie, the snowman is finished, though it is somewhat of a caricature of Mr. Avery. Atticus, seeing the snowman, praises Jem for his creativity but warns him that it might be considered offensive, so they agree to disguise the snowman by changing its features. Miss Maudie, upon seeing the snowman, laughs and playfully scolds Jem for borrowing her sun hat, but she is secretly impressed by his work. The scene ends with the children feeling a sense of accomplishment, and even Atticus acknowledges their effort, though he finds the snowman's likeness to Mr. Avery a bit too much. Later that night, the temperature drops drastically, and a fire breaks out at Miss Maudie's house. Scout and Jem are woken by Atticus, who quickly gets them dressed and tells them to stay close to the Radley house for safety as they watch the fire. The firemen struggle with the cold and the equipment, and Miss Maudie's house is soon consumed by the flames. The townspeople, including Atticus, are concerned, but there is little that can be done to save the house. Scout and Jem stand by, helpless, as the fire destroys Miss Maudie's home. In the midst of the chaos, Atticus instructs the children to stay away from the fire, and they watch the men work to control the blaze. Jem is frustrated that the firemen are not moving fast enough, but Atticus remains calm and tells them to wait. Eventually, the fire is out, and Miss Maudie's house is lost. However, there is a small moment of grace amidst the disaster. While watching the fire, Boo Radley unexpectedly appears and quietly places a blanket around Scout's shoulders, protecting her from the cold. This mysterious act of kindness marks a turning point for Scout's understanding of Boo, as she realizes that he is not the monster she once imagined. Chapter 8 is filled with significant moments that shape the children's perceptions of the world around them. The strange winter weather, the creation of the snowman, and the fire at Miss Maudie's house serve as metaphors for the changes occurring in Maycomb, particularly the growing tension and uncertainty in the town. At the same time, these events highlight the deepening mystery surrounding Boo Radley as the children continue to try to understand the enigma of their reclusive neighbor. This chapter emphasizes themes of childhood curiosity, the blurred lines between fantasy and reality, and the complexities of human behavior. Chapter 9. The story takes place around the Christmas holiday, where Scout and her family visit Finch's Landing to spend Christmas with their relatives. Scout, who is growing up fast, is faced with the ongoing tension between her and her cousin Frances. During the Christmas dinner, Scout feels uncomfortable in her family environment. She is made to sit at a separate table with the children, while the adults engage in conversation. Aunt Alexandra, who holds traditional views about what is proper for a young lady, frequently criticizes Scout's tomboyish ways and behavior, suggesting she should learn to be more ladylike. Scout, however, feels that she is being unfairly judged and tries to understand the adults' expectations, which makes her feel even more out of place. As dinner progresses, tensions rise between Scout and her cousin Frances, who teases her about her father, Atticus. Frances uses a derogatory term nigger lover to insult Atticus, referring to his role in defending Tom Robinson, a black man accused of raping a white woman. This deeply offends Scout, who already feels protective of her father and resentful of the way he is being criticized in the town. Unable to control her anger, Scout punches Frances in the face, knocking him down. This outburst leads to a confrontation with Uncle Jack, who has witnessed the incident and scolds Scout for fighting, not understanding the full context behind her actions. Uncle Jack punishes Scout without asking for her side of the story, which leaves her feeling hurt and misunderstood. Scout tries to explain to him that Frances's insult about Atticus was the real reason she reacted violently, but Uncle Jack is somewhat dismissive of her perspective. He doesn't fully grasp the emotional toll that Frances's words took on Scout, and he reprimands her for her behavior rather than sympathizing with the emotional distress she felt. However, Scout is able to explain her feelings to Uncle Jack, who promises to be discreet about the situation and keep it from reaching Atticus. While Jack still scolds Scout for her conduct, the chapter ends on a somewhat lighter note when Scout and Uncle Jack share a moment of understanding as he bandages her bruised knuckles. Scout is left feeling that, while she hasn't fully resolved the issue with her family, she has found a degree of comfort in her interaction with her uncle. Throughout the chapter, we see how the tension surrounding the trial of Tom Robinson is beginning to affect the Finch family. Scout is exposed to the harsh realities of prejudice and judgment, even within her own family. Her father's moral stance, which many in the town view with disdain, sets her apart from her relatives, and this chapter highlights the growing divide between Scout's childhood innocence and the complexities of the adult world. The themes of racial prejudice, family expectations, and the pain of growing up all play a significant role in the development of the narrative. Chapter 10. Scout and Jem reflect on their father, Atticus, and his seemingly unremarkable nature. Atticus, nearing 50, was much older than the other parents in Macomb, and his age made him appear feeble and out of touch with the more active lives of the other fathers. He didn't do the things the other fathers did. He didn't hunt, play poker, or engage in physical activities like working with his hands. His job as a lawyer, working in an office rather than doing manual labor or running a business, only added to his image of being unremarkable in his children's eyes. Atticus's physical limitations also contributed to this image. He wore glasses, and he was nearly blind in his left eye, a condition that he explained was a curse of the Finch family. This made him look somewhat fragile, and he often had to turn his head to use his right eye when trying to focus on something. In contrast to the strong, physically active fathers that Scout and Jem saw in their peers, Atticus seemed to lack the manliness or action-packed life that they expected from a father. Despite his limitations and the way he appeared in the eyes of his children, Atticus had a quiet dignity and intelligence. He didn't engage in childish games or behavior, and he preferred to read books in the quiet of his home rather than participate in social or physical activities. His calm and measured way of living, however, did not remain unnoticed in the small town of Macomb, especially after he took on the controversial case of Tom Robinson, a black man accused of raping a white woman. The news of him defending Robinson spread quickly, and much of the town's gossip about him was far from complimentary. Scout struggles with how to handle this gossip, and the insults that are thrown her way as a result. When word spreads that Atticus is representing Robinson, Scout faces teasing and bullying at school, including being called a coward and hearing classmates talk disparagingly about her father. However, Scout takes a firm stand in her own way. She resolves not to fight in public, but is willing to defend her father in private. Her resolve comes from the understanding that the family is sacred ground, and she would fight anyone who spoke ill of Atticus. In addition to his personal qualities, Atticus's approach to parenting also stands out. When he gives Jem and Scout air rifles, he refuses to teach them how to shoot. Instead, it is Uncle Jack who takes on the responsibility of teaching them how to use the rifles. Atticus, however, gives them a moral lesson about shooting birds. He tells them that it's a sin to kill a mockingbird because mockingbirds do no harm to people's crops or property. Instead, they provide beauty through their songs. This lesson about compassion and respect for nature becomes symbolic later in the story and plays a significant role in the book's themes of innocence and justice. Scout, trying to understand her father's peculiarities, turns to Miss Maudie for answers. Miss Maudie, who is a close friend of the family, offers a more positive view of Atticus. She explains that Atticus is actually a man of great capability and skill, even if his talents aren't flashy or conventional. She tells Scout and Jem that Atticus could be a skilled checker player, a feat that amazed those who grew up with him, and that he was known for his abilities in their community. Miss Maudie also points out that Atticus was capable of many things, including playing the Jew's harp, which further underscores how much Scout and Jem still had to learn about their father. However, Scout is still disappointed by the fact that Atticus doesn't take part in the exciting activities she associates with masculinity and fatherhood. She believes that life would be different if Atticus were younger and more active, especially when it comes to activities like playing football, a sport that Jem is passionate about. Jem is disappointed that Atticus is too old to play in the Methodist Church's annual football game. Scout, too, wishes that Atticus were a more active father, someone who could participate in their youthful pursuits. In a more comical moment, Scout and Jem spend a day playing with their air rifles, and their curiosity takes them near the Radley house. Jem notices an old dog, Tim Johnson, stumbling down the street. The dog appears sick, and its strange behavior causes Jem to worry. He and Scout run to Calpurnia for help, thinking the dog may need medical attention. Calpurnia, initially skeptical, realizes the dog is acting like a mad dog, a sign that it might be rabid. Calpurnia, in a flurry of urgency, contacts Atticus and the sheriff, Mr. Hectate, to warn them about the dog. The entire neighborhood becomes alert as Calpurnia runs from house to house, urging the townspeople to stay inside. Meanwhile, Atticus and Mr. Tate arrive at the scene, ready to handle the situation. As they wait for the dog to approach, Scout becomes anxious and confused about what's going to happen. She recalls the expectations she had for her father and how he had never been a man of action in the way other fathers were. When Tim Johnson finally approaches, it becomes clear that the dog is rabid, and Mr. Tate hands a rifle to Atticus, asking him to take the shot. Atticus, who has always avoided violence, is asked to kill the dog. In this tense moment, Atticus's calmness and precision in handling the rifle impress Scout and Jem. They watch in awe as their father takes the shot with skill and ease, hitting the target perfectly. This episode marks a turning point in the children's understanding of Atticus. While he had always been somewhat of an enigma to them, his actions in this moment reveal his hidden capabilities. Atticus, despite his age and his refusal to engage in typical masculine activities, proves that he is not feeble or ineffective. He is, in fact, a man of quiet strength and wisdom, capable of rising to the occasion when necessary. This event also illustrates that, while Atticus may not fit the conventional mold of a heroic father figure, he is still a deeply admirable man with principles and skills that his children had yet to fully appreciate. Thank you for listening and joining us. If you enjoyed this audiobook summary, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more summaries that inspire and expand your mind. Drop a comment below to share which book you'd like us to summarize next. We'd love to hear your suggestions. We look forward to bringing you more valuable insights here on Audiobook's Alchemy. Until next time, keep learning and growing.